it certainly seems like Anglos in Quebec were like, come on, Quebec government, give us a break. We need some loving here. We're feeling neglected. And certainly the debacle over this directive on English language healthcare services is a prime example of that. Now, Jean-François Roberge, the French language minister, met with a select number of Anglo groups regarding that directive. And there was a lot of focus on who wasn't there, right? On the government side, Christian Dubé, health minister, not at this meeting. And questions about the representatives from the Anglo community who were and weren't invited. Let's go to Andrew Caddell, one of our favorites here on the Big Five quite a bit, and president of the Task Force on Linguistic Policy. He joins us now with his thoughts. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Elias. I've just got to sit down after dancing, around to the Motown.
Does anything beat the Four Tops, right? And that is unbelievable.
Hey, I got to meet the Temptations when I was working in Macedonia, of all places.
What?
That was very cool. I'll have to tell you that.
Seriously, Andrew, you've always got a great story like that. One of these days. So, Andrew, let's talk language here for a second.
You bet.
Did you want to be at this meeting? Do you wish you were invited to this meeting that happened?
Well, we set parameters. We consulted with the QCGN and other organizations, and we decided that all three ministers had to be there, and that we would not sit down unless there were at least two of three. And I think that we should have asked for. We sought three parameters. One was, or criteria. One was that the health directives should be thrown in the garbage. The second was that we had to sit down with the ministers, with experts, and show how Bill 96 does affect health services. And the third one, which is something that really, really concerns me, is that they drop the historic Anglo criteria that's in Bill 96 that says only those people who went to the majority of their schooling in primary and secondary in English in Canada should be able to be called anglophones, which is ridiculous because an anglophone is somebody who speaks English.
Yeah, and Andrew, I'm still dealing when you call us a phone number to get help from the government and those very lengthy Bill 96 messages. If you dare press 9 for English, whatever it is. I'm still dealing with that. Yeah. Listen, Andrew, what do you say to this criticism? We talked about it on the Big Five this morning. I got to say, our panelists said, you know what, the condition, if Dubé's not there, we won't go. Maybe that's a mistake. Maybe you just want to go to the meeting regardless. And then, after the meeting, you can say, you know what, we're disappointed that Dubé wasn't there. He's the health minister. But it's better just to get the voices heard than put these conditions in place.
No, I heard that this morning, and I disagree entirely because I think Sylvia Martin-Laforge showed a lot of chutzpah. She was, we worked together in concert. And, why sit down when it's going to be another one of those consultations like Concordia and McGill, where basically they're telling them what the conditions will be rather than being a genuine consultation and negotiation where there's going to be something accomplished. So there's no point in meeting. Plus, the organizations that they met with, with all due respect to the Jeffrey Hale and the Senior Action Quebec, these are organizations bought and paid for by the Secretariat of the Premier's office, which has been weaponized since the Couillard government. Like Legault's government has deliberately gone out of its way to make sure that that the organizations that they're paying for toe the line. So, it was a fraud. It was a Potemkin meeting, and it should be seen as that way. And I think, that when they're suggesting that there should be new directives. Well, like as James Meny said last night, I love Jim, he said they dug one hole, now they're going to dig another one. But the one thing I would disagree with Jim is that he said that there's no leadership in the Anglophone community. Well, we're making an effort to do that, and I think, we are an independent voice. We're working with the other organizations, and I think we're doing a pretty damn good job.
So let me ask, because the way you put it so succinctly there, and the various takes I've heard on this subject, to me, what it ends up coming down to is balance, right? Like you gotta be right on the fence between being perceived as belligerent, but you got to be tough to stand up for your community. So, where do you think that line is, right? And you said you drew the line, well, the health minister's not there, we're not going to go. There's your line, right? But do you think that the Anglophone community overall, not just QCGN, not just Task Force, overall, that the Anglophone community is on the right balance in dealing with a government which, at times is not so accommodating nice to the Anglo community?
No, and I think that the government has been disingenuous. I mean, you look back at those ads that they ran a couple of years ago, spent millions of dollars, and every single one of those points has been disproven in the last 2 years. So, it's hard to trust them. We know that they're down in the polls. We know that they're appealing to extremists. And, and yet I was in the same room as Eric Girard yesterday. I was at the Bishops' Forum as a speaker, and he spoke at lunch. And although it's Chatham House rules, so I can't really reveal what he said, I don't think he seemed to imply that he didn't have much use for these directives. And that was encouraging. On the other hand, he's still part of a government that treats the Anglophone community with a certain amount of veiled contempt.
My goodness, I wish I had a tape recorder in that room yesterday. I'd love to have heard that. But so can I throw something at you, though? Just based on what you said there and my own perceptions that why Christian Dubé wasn't there, right? Generally speaking, and this is in my discussions with various people in government in the 6 years that I've been doing this show, right? When they are unhappy, like if they think that Jean-François Roberge and his team have done a terrible job, and they think, you know what, you made the bed, sleep in it, they won't go to these meetings to make the guy responsible suffer a bit more. Do you think there's any of that going on here from Girard and Dubé, where they're like, you know what, Jean-François, you made this mess, go clean it up?
Well, that's all true, except that the directives are on the second page of the directives. It says this has been approved, and they're directives from the health ministry. This has been approved by the Ministry of the French language. Now, it's quite clear. Premier Legault has said French is his highest priority. Yeah. Now, no government leader since 1648 in the Peace of Westphalia has said that something outside of the security of the person and the prosperity of citizens should take precedence over anything else. That's what states are supposed to be about, is protecting individuals. Well, the Premier is saying, no, French is more important than health, than business, than the economy, everything. And so his minister, I think Roberge, he has the ability to veto anything that any of the other ministers say.
I got to wrap here, Andrew, just quickly on this. So they're out of the meeting, right? The new clarified directives are coming, right? And I know some people say, well, throw them out in the meantime. I've heard that, right? But the fact that there will be new directives, quote unquote, clarified, do you view any of that as a positive news out of the meeting? No,
there should be one directive, and that is if you speak English and there are available services, because in some parts of Quebec there might not be, you will be received and served in English in community and social services and health services across the province. That's the directive. That's the directive that they should have. Nothing else. No 31 pages, no 5 pages, no 2 pages, no 5 lines. It's just one simple directive. Service in English.
Andrew, thanks so much. Always straight to the point. Always appreciate your takes. Thanks for coming on. Town councillor in Kamouraska and president of the Task Force on Linguistic Policy, that's Andrew Caddell.